Health is a concept in gaming older than me and probably you, and it serves the purpose of avoiding harsh punishments for messing up just once. You don't want to pick up and play a game just to get one shot by enemies you don't know how to fight and obstacles you don't know how to get away from, so there are mechanics layered into games that allows players to avoid that. And if you're good enough at a specific game, then maintaining your health will usually reward you with something in return. These kinds of health systems make a mechanic feel multi-purposed and stops a lot of workarounds that people have for exploiting the different problems with a health system. Not only do they make the system interesting to look into, but it also adds reason to maintaining what the game wants you to do and avoiding what the game doesn't want you to do. Sonic's health system's really weird in this idea, since the game asks for very different things from the player compared to other platformers. Mario wants to promote methodical platforming, and so its health system is representative of that by heavily rewarding a lack of mistakes and being very limited in its maximum capacity. Shantae wants to do the same thing, promote methodical platforming. However, it also wants to promote fighting large amounts of enemies as well, which is representative of its much larger health capacity. Sonic advertising makes it look like these games just want to promote speed, and so its health mechanics are built more on that and not methodical platforming. Thus, the creation of Rings, a collectible similar to the coins in Mario. However, it's unique from that since it also functions as Sonic's health. Rings are a non-thought to obtain. They serve their purpose as a means of conveyance by merely existing when you haven't picked one up already. You know you're going the right way because if you weren't going the right way, rings wouldn't be there, they would be here. Because of this, rings are very abundant in Sonic, with some levels allowing you to reach ring counts of over 1,000. This is good for conveyance for obvious reasons. We need a lot of rings in a level to always show a player where they're going. However, is this good game design when factoring in that these things also function as Sonic's health? In a lot of platformer cases, this would be terrible, but Sonic's different, so this is actually good design for him. If you're new to a Sonic game, you're going to be wanting to do what the game constantly promotes the idea of, understandably going fast. However, since the levels are going to be layered with obstacles that you very clearly can't react to when you're moving a million miles a minute unless you've already seen these obstacles a million times, you're going to be running into things a lot if you don't go into these things with prior knowledge of what's going to happen next, unless you take these levels slow, in which case you're a coward. This is why a health system like Mario's or most other platformers can't really work in Sonic. Mario only really gets to replenish his health once or twice in a level using a question mark block. However, it's not like he's going to be getting hit as much anyway since Mario is much slower than Sonic. Dude can be moving so fast that you might have less than 10 frames to react to some of the things coming your way in Sonic games, so the health system can't be as sparse in replenishing health. With a system like Rings, where your ability to replenish health is as easy as holding forward, losing health has a super low risk factor, which promotes holding forward and playing recklessly, while learning how to get better at the game from the mistakes you make afterwards. Does this have consequences that haven't been addressed in the last 30 years that this franchise has been active for? Yeah. Rings is the health system used across every section of a Sonic game, including the bosses. The issue here is that Sonic levels have a different purpose when fighting a boss. It doesn't want to promote speed here because in a lot of Sonic bosses, there isn't much space to run anyways. In these sections, Sonic levels would much rather promote methodical platforming. And remember how I said Rings would be terrible in a game that promotes that? Introducing the One Ring strat. It doesn't matter if I'm going to get hit by this obstacle in the midst of fighting this enemy because I'll always be able to get back to full health if I just hold on to one ring. You can do this in regular Sonic levels too, but it's less of an issue there because the focus of the level isn't on enemies, it's getting to the goal as fast as possible. And unfortunately, there hasn't really been a game that fixed this issue, just games that changed the design of bosses entirely, which fit more with the focus of Sonic levels, giving the rings more of a normalized purpose. Then there's also the problem of how Sonic games benefit players that maintain a large health bar. Mario does this by rewarding players with upgrades to their moveset depending on their health bar, being given a mushroom if they don't have any health, and a fire flower if they are able to keep their mushroom. Since Sonic games don't really have an upgrade system tied to its rings, except for some exceptions because there's always some exceptions, they need to be a bit more creative with how they approach this. And it's been something different for every single game. Universally, you're always given an extra life after getting 100 rings and the ability to transform into Super Sonic after obtaining 50 with the Chaos Emeralds. But most Sonic games will try to at least have some sort of secondary reward that's a lot more interesting to look into. Sonic 1 is the first game with implementation to what I'm referring to, but I'd go as far to say that it's also one of the worst examples of rewarding a large health bar. Besides getting an extra life at 100 rings, Sonic 1 also introduced special stages to the series as a means for getting the Chaos Emeralds. Get 50 rings and go into a special stage. If you manage to beat that, then you get a Chaos Emerald. Collect all 6 Chaos Emeralds and you get a pretty background and a feeling of emptiness because the reward for ultimately getting 50 rings to go to a special stage is next to nothing beyond that. The issue with Sonic 1's rings isn't the means for getting the required amount of health, since good players should usually be able to get 50 rings by the end of an act and avoid getting hit in the process. The problem with these stages is that there's next to nothing of value for doing that, and if I'm putting in the work to never get hit in these stages just to get next to nothing in return, then what's the point of even putting in the work? And Sonic CD isn't much better in this regard. It's basically the same thing as Sonic 1, except the ending is a lot more significant in its changes. However, it still stands that this is just a change to the ending of the game, nothing more. Along with that though, collecting all the time stones will actually allow you to always get to the good future of a level with no bad nicks if you so happen to time travel to the future with all 7 collected. I think this is actually pretty decent, as it takes out a lot of work of having to go to the past and then back to the future just to get the good future of every level. My issue with this, however, is that at most you should already be done with half the game by the time you get all the time stones. So by the time you even get all the time stones, there will still be 50% or more of the game that you still have to do all the work involved in getting a good future. I still think it's a decent reward, but for a reward that at minimum will only be given to you halfway into the game, I'm not really a fan of this. Of these two ring systems, Sonic CD is very obviously better since it has at least something you can access through regular gameplay. However, the reward still isn't too substantial and it comes too late for it to feel useful for my liking. Now, if there was a more fleshed out reward for doing any of this, maybe giving me a significant upgrade to my kit to make my character feel even faster than they usually are, all while being unlockable within the first few zones, these would be pretty good. Now, you may assume that since I literally just described Supersonic to the audience, I think that Sonic 2's health system is an improvement to 1 in CD. And the funny part about it is that I actually think the system is worse. It's similar to Sonic 1 in that 50 rings grant you the ability to access a special stage, except now the reward is actually good because it's not a pointless cutscene, it's Supersonic. However, the problem with this system is the way you access the special stages. Special stage gates don't appear at the end of an act anymore, they'll appear at the end of a checkpoint instead. Good players don't really need to think about the amount of rings they have by the time they finish the Sonic 1 act, because if you didn't get hit by the end of an act, you're very likely to have 50 rings by the end of it. Sonic 2's system sucks because there's a lot less space between you and the checkpoint, so if you're grinding for Chaos Emeralds, then chances are you're probably not going to have 50 rings by the time you reach the first checkpoint, unless you're specifically grinding for them. And if I need to grind for rings just to get to a special stage, the design of the game isn't promoting speed, it's promoting significant amounts of exploration. And when my acceleration is worse than the special stages in this game, exploration is not something you want to be the main focus. Now you may say, well, just get 50 rings by the final checkpoint. Then you'll have loads of space to find rings without specifically grinding for them. But if that's the case, then why not just have gates located at the end of the level like in Sonic 1? I feel like if the ring count was lower, this reward would actually be pretty good, but then that would require a reward like Supersonic to be toned down. I don't know, I just think there's better options than what we had in Sonic 2. And speaking of things that are better than Sonic 2, let's talk about Sonic 3 and Knuckles! Alright, so this is the first game in the series where I feel they actually made the health system worthwhile for good players. Special stages now have nothing to do with the amount of rings you have, being sectioned off into large gates that you can find throughout the acts, so we won't be talking about them. Instead, we're going to be talking about the bonus stages, which are now what occupy the checkpoints when a certain amount of rings are gathered. Now, remember what I said about Sonic 2's health system. I said they'd be a lot better if they lowered the amount of rings needed to be rewarded for your efforts while also toning down the reward. And guess what they did in Sonic 3, everyone? This game is so good. Sonic 3 features bonus stages instead of special stages at their checkpoints. Hit a checkpoint with 20 or more rings and you'll be thrown into one of 3 bonus stages depending on the amount of rings you currently have. These bonus stages house chances to gather either extra rings, more lives, continues, or power-ups depending on the bonus stage you're doing. Just simple rewards for having the rings to access them. And if it wasn't blatantly obvious from how much I pop off over the design of this game, then let me tell you now that this is an amazing system. The reward is decently small, but that's okay because the amount of health needed to meet that reward is also small. Unlike in Sonic 2, however, the requirements to get to that reward being small is actually a good thing here because there's not much space between you and the next checkpoint to realistically get anything much higher anyways. And if you were to get anything higher, you'll be thrown into a different stage, so it works out anyways. This system is so good that it's even the same system used in Mania. I cannot stress how well made it is. And then we get to the 3D games. With more of an emphasis on what you can do outside of the levels in these games, we go into an era of Sonic that was more in tune with using the excess rings gathered in levels as a form of currency. Most games already do this with their own collectibles, Kid Icarus Uprising with its hearts, Shantae with gems, Mega Man with screws. However, it's different with Sonic since his form of currency, rings, are also tied to his health. Because of this, money is a lot harder to obtain since any mistake you make could drain what you were trying to make entirely. So personally, I feel that the things you can buy using your money should be very worthwhile, and if it's not worthwhile, then the punishment for getting hit in a Sonic game needs to change. Starting with Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, both of these games used rings obtained in stages as currency for the Chao Garden, a side mode to the adventure games that features raising Chao. Apparently, you're supposed to use rings as a form of currency for the black market, where you can buy fruits that change your Chao's alignment, primary stats, and their ability to mate. I say apparently because I did not use the Chao Garden myself. I'm simply reading what I found on a website, and this is where my problems with the system lie. The issue with the Chao Garden as a use of your rings is that it's detached from what you do in the real game entirely, being subjected to just a side mode. The issue with this being the case is that someone like me who gets next to no enjoyment from the Chao Garden won't find any use for keeping any of the rings I have, since the only place I can use them is a place in the game that I don't want to access anyways. However, I don't want to say that the system is bad because considering there even is a website covering every single piece of info regarding Chao, I'd say that a massive amount of people enjoy this side mode. I mean, this website has topics covering the smallest details like Chao DNA, and even has a custom-made 3D Chao viewer where you can theorize what a Chao would look like with specific accessories and stats you want to give it. What the fuck? So yeah, this isn't a bad system, so to say. There's a wide amount of options to choose from that do a lot to change the attributes of a Chao, but if you don't enjoy the side mode of the game at all, then this system is completely useless. If there was a game that had a shop similar to this, but with tie-ins to the main gameplay, then I consider that an improvement, but either way, these game systems are just okay overall. You know how I just said the 3D Sonic games will use shops as a prize for keeping a lot of rings? Well, that was a lie, because Heroes actually doesn't do this, because of course it doesn't. Sonic Heroes probably has the most simple system we've seen so far. Universal to every team, you get rings, and it fills up your Team Blast gauge. That's it. No reason to have rings already on you, no reward for having a lot of rings on you, no punishment for not having a lot of rings on you, nothing. And team-specific systems? Team Chaotix has a few missions that require a high amount of rings to beat the stage, however a reward like that is so significant that it fundamentally changes how these levels need to be approached. Meaning these don't really apply to regular Sonic gameplay, which means I'm not going to talk about it in relation to regular Sonic gameplay. Moving on. Ironically, Sonic 06 has one of my favorite systems that we've already seen from the 3D Sonic games. It goes back to the shop system they had in SA1 and 2, except now the shop is integrated into the main gameplay and the way you obtain rings has a much larger addition. Rings are deposited into your hub world bank from both the rings you get from the stage and the rings you get as a bonus for your ranking after completing a stage. And the amount of rings you can get from these bonuses can reach up to the thousands, meaning you're usually going to be the highest amount of rings that you get in these levels. Now, I would say that this makes the shop detached from what you actually do with the rings after stages, making them obsolete in this scenario. However, the rings you get in the stage also go into the score you get at the end of the level, and your score is also what the game uses when deciding your rank. So the amount of health you maintain throughout the level is still rewarded even if the main way it's rewarded is de-emphasized. And the things you can earn from the shop? I go as far to say that these are the best parts about the entire game. Besides the required items that Sonic needs to progress in the game, Sonic can also get these small gems. They make your shoes different colors and give you special abilities depending on what flavor you pick. These abilities were supposed to have a limit, but for some reason the developers just forgot to program that in, so fortunately you can actually just use them infinitely with no repercussions. Get ready to abuse the Sky Gem as a grappling hook that can reach literally anywhere. Use the Red Gem to slow down time and avoid getting hit by every possible object in your way. This one was supposed to just give you a double jump, but you can actually just fly for some reason. Overall, this system is really good. Its rewards are insanely fun to use, and the way you go about obtaining that reward still emphasizes maintaining your health. Most of it is unintentional, and admittedly, it has to do a lot with exploitations of how the game functions, but considering there's less means to exploit this system in Sonic Unleashed, and when I say less, I don't mean none, the shop system in this game and what I like about it is a lot more intended. Sonic Unleashed actually has RPG elements integrated into the base game, giving you a level up system to up the stats for both the Werehog and the Sonic. Experience points can be found in both types of stages and are obtained from destroying enemies, meaning if you want to level up your stats to their max, you need to grind a lot in this game. However, this isn't the only way you can get EXP. You can also get experience from food items at the shop, which cost rings. So if you don't want to constantly replay levels to get experience for your stats, all you have to do is maintain your ring counter in the day stages. Which, I mean, it's not as big of a prize as you got in Sonic 06, but it's at least something decent for your efforts, and it can take out a lot of replayability that you feel like you have to do in this game. Plus, it's actually not as bad to lose your rings in Sonic Unleashed since you won't be dropped all the way to 0 for getting hit once. Usually, you'll only lose about half, so the reward being lowered is understandable. You can also give the food that you buy to Chip, and he'll criticize how good the food is and just talk about random stuff sometimes. This does basically nothing, but I like the writing in this game, so it's cool for me. So even though the reward for maintaining health in this game isn't as great as 06, it's still a decent reward that takes out a lot of the replayability that it feels like you have to do in this game. Couple that with the fact that having more rings actually increases your top speed in the daytime stages, and this is actually a pretty good system. Another W on top of the million others that this perfect game has on its back. Sonic Colors apparently has no reward for maintaining the rings that you have, which is actually good for me because I haven't played Sonic Colors and this video is already long enough for my liking as is. So moving on to Sonic Generations. Sonic Generations has a shop that actually allows you to buy different abilities that you can use in-game, just like in Sonic 06. Of course, the abilities you have in this game are toned down, since there's not an infinite meter to exploit them like there is in 06, but they're still really fun to use. Now you may be asking, why aren't you going into detail about any of this like you did with any other system? It's because Sonic Generations Skill Shop actually doesn't use rings. Sonic Forces, as of this video's recording, is the most recent 3D Sonic game, and it has by far the worst system of any system we've seen so far. You know how I just completely skipped over 2 Sonic games because there was literally nothing to note about them besides getting a life at 100 rings? Well, this game takes it a step further by not even giving you a life. There is next to no value in getting more than 1 ring in Forces. The only thing that could be of real worth to you to having a lot of rings is bonus points in the results screen that might get you closer to an S rank, which might give you a new Wispin to use. There's also a specific Wispin that gives you invincibility for a short amount of time if you have 100 rings. However, the problem with all of this is that less than half of the levels are even applied to this stuff because it's exclusive to the avatar, and some of it is even more exclusive to one specific weapon type of the avatar. And even then, is invincibility really important in a game like Forces? Is invincibility off 100 rings super relevant if you have a weapon with infinite ammo that destroys everything in its path that's given to you for free upon playing the avatar for the first time? Personally, I don't think so I don't even feel like this weapon is even worthwhile in this game. So yeah, this is by far the worst ring system of any Sonic game I've talked about. A bit anticlimactic and on a sour note, but hopefully the next Sonic game will have a good system, right? So that should be every mainline Sonic game covered in one video. Yep, I don't think I left out a single mainline Sonic game. Not a single one. Personally, I feel that Sonic 3 and Knuckles had the best implementation of the ring system in the classic games, while Sonic 06 had by far the best implementation in the 3D games. If we're talking about non-exploitable systems that were made by the intentions of the developer, Sonic Unleashed probably has the best system we've seen so far. Decent rewards and the ability to take out tedious gameplay if you're good enough at the game. If that ain't a good system for rings, I don't know what is. So, to summarize this video up, play Sonic Unleashed. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, then please be sure to subscribe. Somehow I actually got to 850 subs, which fills me with a lot of self-confidence in my abilities and a lot of anxiety as well because of the large number of people that have expectations from me, so if you'd like to perpetuate that even more, then feel free to subscribe. We're almost at 1,000 subs, and I'm assuming you probably aren't subbed to me right now anyway, so it would be nice. But yeah, I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Again, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.